do this introduction today on Instagram. Pillar come across my screen like most people on Instagram, and wherever they're spending their money in marketing and sponsorship at work, because I couldn't open Instagram or Facebook without Declan O'Donoghue or Eddie Emmons popping up on my screen riding a bike. It had my intrigue, but didn't have my money. I didn't want to throw money at it until I knew what was happening and what was happening behind the brand, because as we know, we see all the snake oil, all the instant fixes in social media, and I didn't want to hand over my hard-earned until I knew it worked. I bit the bullet. The Ramons, who we know from Kona fame and Port Macquarie fame, swore by it. I bit the bullet. I had 2 nights sleep on it, slept like a baby, loved it. And then none other than Tim Reed walked into the Bottle.It studio wearing a Pillar hat. Here's a bloke that's done his research on what works, what doesn't work, where to find the 1%, and wouldn't put anything in his body that didn't work. So I straight away knew I was in the right areas. Fast forward 2 weeks, and I couldn't go to bed without it. My anxiety levels were gone. I was sleeping through. I'd never felt better. And it's the one thing I've religiously kept doing since training for the Ironman. I need it to sleep. There's no placebo about it. I genuinely can tell when I have and I haven't. I absolutely love the stuff. So when I met Damo up at Cairns, by met, I mean, I stalked. I walked straight into the athletes' village, into the exhibition tent, found Damo and told him straight away, "Hi, I'm Bo Jones. What are you doing? What's happening? What is Pillar? Why is it so good? What's the secret?" And I chewed Damo's ear about my appreciation for his brand. He threw some love back and filmed myself and Paddy Mack hugging at the finish line. And I've been very fortunate over the last few weeks to keep this conversation ongoing with the guys at Pillar Performance. And this conversation today is all about the amazing brand they have, how it works, what it does, and how it's going to take over the endurance sport world in the future. Charlton Lawson and Damien Fitzpatrick, thank you so much for joining me on the Bottle.It podcast. Are you guys ready to rip in?
Good to be here. Thanks, Bo.
After that intro, mate, we're ready to rip in.
I believe that was all done on one intake of air too. That was all one long sentence.
Mate, after a long day of work. Yeah, that's an endurance episode in itself.
Mate, working with 3-year-olds, if you don't talk fast, they don't give you their attention. So are you guys sick of talking about it yet? Are you guys still excited? What's the vibe like in the Pillar office?
Oh, mate, we work remotely, so we don't get too sick of each other, which is good. But I'll tell you what, our short answer is no, we're definitely not sick of it yet. The office Slack channel is constantly buzzing, particularly between Charlton and myself, in regards to what's going on and obviously where we're going. You know, we are still only a breath old as a company and a brand. We're learning literally every single day, mate, and we, as you've spoken to us before, mate, and probably picked up from the number of times that we have spoken, we literally love what we're doing right now, and we wouldn't prefer to be anywhere else. At the moment, things are going in the right direction, and we're just hanging on for the ride, and really happy that people are loving what we're doing.
Just quickly, we probably should have opened the episode with this. What's Pillar? What are you guys doing? What makes me so happy that we're talking? What's your product? What's your service? What do you guys do?
From a high level, guys, I'll grab that one, Charlie. Pillar is a sports micronutrition company. We are a first of its kind in the way that we categorize ourselves. It took us a long time to really define and narrow down a very fast way to describe what that is. For those people who know nutrition, even at a high level, on the macro side, you've got proteins, carbohydrates, and fats at a very high level. We don't do any of that. That's traditionally where performance nutrition has been based, around those big rocks. But micronutrition, so let's consider everything else in the puzzle, that's where we come in. And we had felt that for a long period of time, the innovation had always been on the macro side, and that's where a lot of the focus had been. Through my own personal injury history, we felt that the micro space needed to be shaken up. We felt it had been miseducated and also misformulated. So we came in. I had the idea in around 2020 that there was definitely an opportunity to really kind of disrupt this space, and we've gone about that in our opening range. We've brought on some amazing team members. You know, Charlie has been we call him our resident endurance athlete. He's taught me an awful lot, and from there, we've only just kind of scratched the surface on what we're doing. But micronutrition, think about it, everything that isn't macronutrition.
What brands exist in micronutrition? What when you talk about shaking up that industry, was there much to shake up, or was it kind of overlooked in regards to the health and fitness supplement department?
Yeah, I mean, in traditional what would be called VMS, so vitamin mineral supplements, it really sat in this sort of traditional practitioner, pharmaceutical sort of category. And I think that's what's been the interesting education journey for us, is that athletes, particularly endurance athletes, have been unaware of the performance benefits from this side of things, because there's never been a brand educating and also marketing about the performance benefits of this category. It's funny because also the traditional incumbents in this space, they looked very medicinal. If you ask Damien about his sort of founder story and what led him to the brand, part of that was understanding athlete behavior. And the guys that he played professional rugby with, they'd race out off the field and into the locker room to take their protein shakes and their creatines and also their pre-workouts and that kind of thing. But there'd be a huge disinterest about taking the stuff that came in the little white bottles. Also another reason why we designed our product to look very different when you pick it up. But it was Damien's journey being able to understand the performance outcomes, the reduction around things like inflammation, the increased energy, the better recovery, that he went, hang on a sec here, there's a massive opportunity being missed by athletes. And so we had to basically invent this space. So in terms of in our space, sports micros, there's really no one else. We kind of have a white space, and we have this sort of first mover advantage and joy in educating, saying, hey guys, there's a huge amount of unlocked potential, number one, but also there's a road to healthier, happier training with less risk of injury, with better performance outcomes, but doing it on the way, enjoying the journey more, because you're going to feel better, you're going to train better, you're going to feel better and have more time for your family and your friends, your full-time job, etc. And all this performance benefit as well. So yeah, we play in this unique sort of white space. So that's why education has been such a fundamental importance for the brand.
Is it received with open arms? Do you find, like, is the general public, they out there looking for it? If you guys, is it something you have to find the athlete and then remold how they do it? Like you said, protein's always really important or really glamorous to be with the protein shaker. Everyone wants to be doing protein, so everyone knows you've got muscles. Whereas, like you said, these little macronutritions that aren't as in your face, but more subtle. Are people warming to it?
I think the easiest. It's an interesting one. We definitely, when the gap that when I had the idea for the product range, I knew a gap existed at the very elite level, because myself and a group of dietitians, we got together and we knew what was missing out of this micro category. And as Charlie said there, we had all turned to that practitioner space of vitamins and minerals. One of the biggest differences we probably get asked in terms of our people asking about it, one of the first things we get asked is, okay, so this is what you're doing. Why is it different to, obviously, why couldn't we use those other existing brands? And we think about the way that micronutrition has been formulated in the past. And one of the big key differences of what Pillar does is, if you think about like a protein, a lot of people from a high level just think about, okay, it's a protein cell. They don't really consider that it's actually the quality of that protein cell is made up of those 9 essential amino acids. Exactly the same way we go and the way I thought about micronutrition when I was really injured in my journey, I really needed to take note of what the actual breakdown of the macros that were actually going into my body were going to do, because I needed this stuff to be able to get back on the field and train. So when you look at a micro formulation, for example, it's not actually just talking about magnesium. It's actually trying to break that magnesium down into the forms of magnesium that will be most effective. And that was definitely the gap that we knew needed to be solved. And we knew if we had solved it, people would come. It's kind of one of those things, build it and people will come. And obviously we know that it's not as simple as that, because you have to do your marketing, you have to get your messaging right. And obviously you have to put it in front of the right people that need it. And I knew we while the elite level of sport was definitely the early adopters of the brand. I mean, we're moving through nearly every professional team now in the country, and some of our first customers were the high profile teams in the NRL, rugby union, the AFL. Our biggest learning as a business was that our actual core consumer, and it's not too hard to see now where Pillar's gone, is actually the endurance athlete, and very much so our focus core demographic of a triathlete. And so your question being, are they asking for it? Do they want it? When we put it in front of that consumer and we really message it for that exact athlete, then yes, we feel that we have now found where the brand really lives, and that is to really service endurance athletes, because they are the one, and Charlie will be able to speak on this better than I can. They are the ones that are so dialed into what their body needs from a nutritional perspective. And we can talk about it for ages, and Charlie might want to touch on it a little bit. But I think anyone who has undertaken some form of endurance activity, particularly a long distance triathlon, they will know the depth that people will go to learn about it. When you're investing so much time in equipment and also your personal time, you don't want to leave little pieces to chance, like nutrition.
Yeah, I think to expand on that, like, you know, looking at athletes across the spectrum outside of endurance and in, like, just the behavior is so different. When you're doing a 10, 15, 20-hour training week and you're mixing that with 3 sports, if you look at a triathlete, for instance, the demands are really, really heavy. And, you know, with no disrespect to team sports, you know, and obviously at the very elite level, it's different. But between that and the lower levels, guys will go to practice, they'll train, they'll enjoy it, and then often go to the pub. You know, it's a generalist way of summarizing it. But an endurance athlete, you know, they're going to come off a brick session and they're going straight to their recovery products. They're getting on a foam roller, they're strapping on a pair of Normatec boots, etc. They're rehydrating, focusing on their diet, and then looking at the next session that starts 5, 6 a.m. the next morning. So, you know, they really are looking to unlock every unturned stone in terms of just recovery, energy, all of those categories that we formulate for. And so to go back to your original question, I think there was this real, it doesn't take long before there's this aha moment, because it is really simple. I mean, we still can't believe that we're the first brand to innovate in this space and develop products that are at a high enough potency, that with the right ingredient selection, and that with a full 100% certification for informed sport and commitment to clean sport. We're just like, you know, it's crazy that this has been a missing piece of the puzzle for so long, but it doesn't take long for our customers to look at it and go, that makes perfect sense. And the good thing is, you know, once they try the product, and we do a lot of sampling, and we're an Ironman partner, so we're at all the expos and we really talk about the brand, and education's been a huge part of it, as I've said. But we get people to try the product. And, you know, Bo, you've experienced yourself. Like, I'll quickly touch on something that I think's quite, it's really interesting. If you look at our hero product, triple magnesium, it's just gone gangbusters in this country. And I've been doing a lot of research outside of this. And what I've unlocked is that, to start with, in Australia, there's a growing, and this is happening globally, but I know, you know, just looking at Australian stats, there's a huge amount of magnesium loss in the soil mineral content in Australian soil. And that is exactly what's then passed onto the plants and animals that we eat, which is where magnesium, you know, that's how we essentially get magnesium. If you start there and you look at the data, they reckon in sedentary individuals, so people that are not training, up to 60% of males and up to 70% of males are deficient in magnesium. So when you then consider someone who's training 10, 15, 20, 25 hours a week, and you look at a water-soluble mineral like magnesium that we excrete through sweat and wee, and the more you train, the more you sweat, and the more you drink to hydrate, the more you wee, that has to be replaced from somewhere. And if we're not getting it from our food at high enough quantities in the right bioavailable sources, well, then it's no surprise to me why when people try it, they're going, oh, I feel so much better. And that's what's creating this huge word of mouth movement, so to speak, with this product specifically. And I'm just, you know, we're just stoked every day. People say to us, what are you loving the most? And I'm like, I love the performance outcome stuff. I love that guys are training better and feeling better. But I'll give you some anecdotal feedback. I recently expoed at Ironman Sunshine Coast, and probably the best feedback I ever got was, it talks to more, probably something that you're quite passionate about, Bo, is the mental health stuff. And I had 2 ladies come up to me and said, sorry, I don't know what's in that powder of yours, but I need it for my husband, because when he trains with that, he is so much more patient with me and the kids at home when he's training. And it's that kind of thing that I just love, because it's not just, it's actually general health and happiness for our customer, which is pretty cool.
I started my pillar journey with, oh, yep, it'd be great for inflammation. So the one thing I'd picked up from playing low levels rugby was I don't know, I can't remember what it was called, something ease. You buy it at the pharmacy, muscle ease or something. It was the only magnesium you could buy, and you have it before you go to bed. And it was great for soreness and tissue damage and things like that, and it helped made you sleep better. It also tastes like dog shit. And we'll come back to why your magnesium tastes better, because it stands out so much better. But I was taking it for that reason. So when I was training for the Ironman, I was like, well, it makes sense. I'm trashing my body each day. I'm on my feet for 8 hours at work with the kids. I'll keep taking it for the physical benefits. And then when the Ironman finished and my tub ran out, I was like, well, actually, I'm not bashing my body as much anymore. I could probably afford to not pay the, I don't know, one of you jump in, $38.95, $39, whatever it is for the tub. I don't need that's money in my pocket. I don't need to spend that much money. I had a week, probably 10 days. That's how long it took before I got back on the program, of the worst night's sleep in my life. I was up twice in the middle of the night to go to the toilet. And because of that, you do become frustrated the next day, and it just keeps snowballing and snowballing. And before I realized, I'm like, oh, the magnesium wasn't only helping with my inflammation and my bash in my body. I was sleeping like a log. Back on pillar, not training. And this is why I really think that's a huge thing for the mental health element, and why Bottle.It, I really want to push it with Bottle.It. I know at the moment, if it looks like a duck, smells like a duck, it's a friggin' ad. This isn't an ad. There's no payment going on here. This is me genuinely wanting to get something in front of people's eyes that can help their mental health. My anxiety levels stopped. My fear of what was coming in the next few weeks, or fear of something that happened behind me, just alleviates. It goes. And I know you guys can't claim, I know that you can't jump on that and say that's because of your pillar, but that's the only thing I was doing different. And then all of a sudden, like you said, my behavior around my wife, my behavior around my son and in my workplace is immensely better because I'm sleeping. I'm out like a light every night. I'm not getting up to go up and down the stairs to the toilet. And it makes me happier. So not only is pillar, like you said, it's performance, there's performance in the word. So by no means am I hoping anyone listening that goes, well, I'm not a sub 10-hour Ironman, or I'm not going to go do the UTA. Like I ain't asking for you guys to, because as you said, they're the guys that already know. They already know how good magnesium is. But all the guys that are listening to this thinking, oh, why push this on people that are a 14-hour Ironman or aren't even Ironman? This is why. This stuff knocks you out. It's a go to sleep juice, is it, Damo? Like what it knocks people out to sleep. It's so good.
So yeah, exactly, Bowen, mate. It's my favourite story of Charlie's. We laugh about it so often, but there's only so many claims we can make from the TGA, and I'll tell you what, pillar triple magnesium will make your husband a better bloke is not one of them, but that has got to be a headline out of one of these grabs out of this podcast.
Mate, Ali will testify, and she'll go on record.
Right.
The chances of me pestering her about 10 p.m. every night to throw the leg over, almost cease and desist, they stop because I'm snoring. So for any female listening going, what can I get my hubby for Christmas? Throw some pillar in there. Solve your problems.
Yeah. Mate, it's and those comments you said before about the, how do we, and we've got this, I mean, one of the things about a brand, particularly when you go, I mean, no, it's probably not too hard to believe. We've had some really supportive investors on this journey. What we've attempted to do here is essentially take on the pharmaceutical category here in Australia, and we're going to be, now endeavouring to do it over into Europe, and in the United States come next year. And the triple magnesium range is going to be the front runner of that. Look, it's not cheap what we've attempted to do. We've had some very supportive investors, those that have been in this space, that have backed us and understand that there is a space and change needed. But obviously along that journey, it was about, okay, who is our customer? Who is this product really addressing? And I had to be really almost unapologetic in the fact that I said to them, I'm going to stay niche in terms of where the delivery of this product and how we're going to speak about the product and educate it as a brand, because what I know from the small amount of business knowledge, but also assumptions that I've made, you try and go after everyone in terms of trying to give a little bit of each of your product to different demographics, on non-athletes, sedentaries, injured. You're really going to grab no one unless you've got hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on marketing. One of the biggest questions we often get asked, and probably one of the biggest I suppose barriers for those people who potentially aren't athletes or I suppose identify as an athlete, is that word performance in the brand. The reason I was really adamant on that is because we wanted to be, right in the beginning when we were coming up with the name, my wife and I, we wanted to make sure that people firstly didn't see us as another vitamin and mineral brand. We needed to have that differentiation. And as Charlie said before, we needed to do that. We did it through formulation the hard way, had to formulate the entire range within 6 months between kind of getting the money in from investors and launching. You need to get into the market and start making money as quick as possible. But to pick a name that we could really run with and start to educate us to why we were different and what we were attempting to do. Look, in the long run, potentially, is it a little bit harder to then sell to those people who may not identify? Yes, it definitely is. I think one of the benefits that we've been able to do here in Australia is we do sell across numerous channels. So we obviously have our specialty endurance retailers. We have our online platform, which we know is very marketed and messaged heavy towards the endurance and, I suppose, elite amateur athletes, which is our core demographic of customers. But we also sell, in over 500 pharmacies, and that's consistently growing. And the best thing about our pharmacy channel is that it's not traditional athletes that are shopping in there. It's actually the product being recommended by the pharmacist because of the formulation quality. And we've actually got people using the product coming over from other brands that might most definitely do not identify as athletes, but the pharmacists recognize the quality of the formulation. And what you're saying about the sleep before, it was that inclusion of a glycinate dihydrate magnesium at that 400 milligram level. That there is one of the biggest keys that we are feeling. People have now noticed a difference in regards to relieving sleeplessness, which is the claim we're allowed to make at the TGA. So I think while we may have pigeonholed ourselves in the name of that performance, what we've tried to do, and when Charlie came on board, is really owning this space for the brand, is actually being quite wide in how we deliver the product and make it accessible via distribution, and we don't just pigeonhole it into the athlete channels.
You touched on at the start that one of the issues you have is that everyone, it's an image thing too, especially amongst, like you're saying, that team environment that everyone wants to be seen with the protein shaker, and being seen as taking, your micros isn't cool or isn't on trend, or it's not something you do at the gym with your gym bag. You don't sit there and measure your little scoop out and things like that. I think keeping the word performance is that thing that in itself elevates you into that cool platform where you're right. If it was just Pillar, or if it was something just Magnesium, no one's rushing to grab that off the shelf to show off in front of their mates. Whereas the word performance, and it's coming from someone, I'm an absolute brand slut. Like, I love a good brand. Like, every time you see me, I'll be covered head to toe in brands. I love a good brand. But having the word performance, it's that same thing. It's sometimes one of the reasons why, especially the Ironman crowd, that you want to be an Ironman is just to be called an Ironman. So having that word performance means that when I'm buying it off the shelf, I might be 20 kilos overweight, have my son and my wife with me, and my best days are past me. But if I buy something off the shelf that has the word performance, I feel good. It's really empowering to know that I'm buying something that's targeted at, Yarn and guys like that. So I think that you've done well to hang on to that name. And that's definitely worth fighting for. Charlie, from an athlete point of view, working with this brand now, mate, what excites you? What jumped out when you sent your resume? I don't actually know how this relationship started, but was it a resume? Like, what made you? Why did you want to get on board from day one?
Well, look, 100%. Honestly, I actually joined the brand as one of the original seed investors, but right from the day dot, I saw the opportunity.
You can say money. You can just say money. If you're an investor from the start, you say money. It's fine. We all say
you invest as an investor for the outcome, for the financial outcome. But it didn't take me long to look under the hood and see the opportunity, and that's what was so exciting. For me, it was so obvious, and I alluded to that earlier. Just a bit of my background. I was a distance swimmer out of South Africa. And so I'm in college in the United States in a Division I school as well. And then kind of focused on career for sort of 10, 15 years. But I always missed that part of my life. So when COVID came and struck and gave me the opportunity to dive back into a sport, I was lured in probably by Lionel Sanders' YouTube video or something like that. And there's something about someone hurting themselves for performance outcomes that I absolutely love. And there was no stranger to that in my swimming career, and probably life's a bit easy when you're not training for something hard. And I missed that grind. So when that opportunity came and I got back in, it was right around the time that I was also, talking to Damien and looking to come on board as an investor. And I just thought I was deep diving in that space again. Now, when I got into it, because of my time as a swimmer at that sort of top level, even though I don't have this long history in Ironman or even triathlon, I came in off the bat knowing how to train like guys at the front end of the sport and can learn quickly. Straight away, looking at the formulations, looking at what was going on in the market, looking at the athlete and understanding how that athlete behaves and what they're looking for, I just said, there's a clear space here that we need to be in. So as I said to you, I came in thinking that this was all going to be about that next frontier of, and I talk to, I head up partnerships, so I speak to our pro athletes every day. And we've got a number of really great pros in the team: Eddie Salthouse, Steve McKenna, Sam Appleton, obviously Jan Frodeno, and Izzy Bat-Doyle. On it goes. So it's incredible because you unlock so much insight from those guys. But as I said, I thought this was about unlocking that unturned stone of performance. But again, what excites me is all this other stuff that's happening. And the feedback, the constant feedback, whether it's a review on our website, whether it's a chat at an Ironman event, whether it's just a comment on one of our social media posts, there's this real sort of sea change happening. Now, the word performance, going back to that, like it sounds great, it tells the story, but that again was so important because this clear space was a function of no other brand being here before, marketing, looking like a performance brand, but having formulations like this. So it was by design. Obviously looks and feels good too. But, you asked us at the beginning of the conversation, do you get bored of having this chat? I really don't, because there's so many things, there's so many people out there, whether it's someone looking to qualify for Kona or someone just willing to strap on a pair of running shoes that hasn't done it in 10 years and get out the door and enjoy it and find new meaning in it. And we know what it does for the head. Like, it clears the head. It makes us feel better. Bo, you found that. I found it, in the last couple of years. It does so many big things, just exercise and training. So it's those everyday conversations. We were chatting before we went live on the podcast. We spent the last 12 months, really deep diving in triathlon and running, road running. And I was at the UTA event, a couple of weeks ago, and that's a customer we haven't done a huge amount of stuff with, and we're having conversations that we were having at the beginning of our journey with triathlon when we embarked on the Ironman partnership. And it's fun. It's always fun. It's always different. It's always evolving. And hopefully, as we release new products over the next 12 months, we've got some really exciting product development pipelines down the track. There's going to be there's new people to serve. Because we know that there's deficiencies. A lot of people are on restricted diets these days. We've got a lot of people going meat-free, vegan, et cetera. But what does that do? It opens you up to potential deficiencies. And when you're training at a high level, you've really got to look out for that. We hope to be not just a product that, creates value by developing great products, but that's why we brought, our in-house sports dietitian, Pip Taylor, in-house. That's why we work from a community grassroots level as well to educate, because we're trying to just make people fitter, happier, healthier along the way, not just sell you a product, to be honest.
What are the pros like with feedback? As I said, new to this world, when you've got pros like on the team, and you're right, everyone's chasing that 1% difference. Are they quite harsh with their feedback too? Like if they've got if their nose they're joint, or is everyone fairly tight-lipped because they're trying to keep their sponsors happy? What's that relationship like from the just the average listener?
Hey, I've got to really be honest. Like the pros have been really similar to the age groupers in a lot of respects. They are willing to learn, because these guys, some of them are at the beginning of their careers, some of them are midway through, and some of them are near the end. But there's something about a good pro athlete. They're always looking for the competitive advantage. So at least in my experience, they've always been willing to learn. Some of them will admit, I'll say, and I'll drop his name, Steve McKenna. He will happily tell me, Charlie, I don't know what works and what doesn't work, but I sit down, do the research, make the decision, and then I trust. And I think that's really good, knowing like your strengths and weaknesses. Someone else might be really dialed in, and they might come from a sports dietitian background or a physio background, so they're a little bit more in tune with that from a research and studying or their background, university, etc. So you get all different levels, but everyone has been really keen to learn. I mean, even in our partnership with Jan, we've met Jan in the in a part of his career where there's a lot going on. He's picked up some injuries, and
Did you and him bond over that Achilles issue, mate? Or was that the moment between you two that was like stood out?
Well, I've got a grade 3 tear in my Achilles as well. So
What was his? What was his? Have you got him? Have you got him covered?
yeah, look, he can still run. I can't. So
There you go. There you go. So that,
Yeah, I don't think.
listen,
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to divulge all of Jan's injury histories. But I mean, I reckon Charlie nailed that point. I think that the pros, you can tell the pros based the engagement, or I suppose the gap that we had to solve between knowledge and obviously conversion with some of the pros, was there was definitely a scale on age. You know, as you said, someone like Reedy, someone like, you know, Jan, for example, far closer to understanding exactly what their bodies needed, understood what we were doing, were well read in the process. Those younger athletes, and I even found it, you know, playing rugby, you think you're invincible, right? You're 20 to 25. Your body's bouncing back at a rate of knots after tough sessions. When you get into the dog years of an endurance athlete, like I don't know how Reedy and Jan literally do what they do and have done it for so long. But you know, the interesting thing was, as we're talking about Jan, someone like Jan is he's always searching for kind of what is the next thing in the journey, and it was I suppose for us as a validation for the brand, particularly for that endurance and triathlon customer. I suppose when Jan started to search and realize that this was kind of a space that he wanted to address for himself, I think that probably really gave us the validation that yes, this endurance athlete, and particularly that core age group demographic of, you know, the average age grouper in Ironman is kind of 45 to 50 or 55 years old. You know, we probably quickly realized it was that older age grouper that is going to be really dialed in to what we're doing here. And we found that as a brand, we definitely have an older demographic, which is fantastic because at the same time, they're also far more dialed into what their body needs. They're willing to, I suppose, do the research and look for brands that are doing things differently. But it's been a little bit more difficult for us because, you know, with that comes different ways of, you know, how they absorb content is different. You know, how you need to speak to different demographics is one of the things we've learned across the journey. Like what Charlton said before, like and I was really, it was interesting what you said. Like we tried to set out to, we laugh about it in the company, but like what we tried to do wasn't easy. Like there's nothing sexy or cool about a medicine brand or a complementary medicine brand. We laugh and sit there and go, hey, our mission is to make fish oil cool again, you know, make fish oil great again. And it's not easy, right? We are closer towards a medicinal medicine company than we are a sports nutrition brand. And what we say internally is we're intentionally, Pillar is trying to bridge that gap between preventative health and pharmaceuticals and sports supplements. So yes, we look, smell and taste and feel like a sports nutrition brand, but what category we are positioned, rather regulatory bodies we have to go through as we go through the world, is all on the pharmaceutical side. So from a navigation perspective on what we've got ahead of us, it's difficult, but also, as Charlie said, there's a lot of white space there because we are the first movers in it, and yeah, we're learning an awful lot about how best to try and help people along that education journey with Pillar.
Well, that's cool because you guys, I can only assume, would be learning as you go. Like you said, when you have someone like Jan or Reedy grilling you hard about what's in it, like this is where you see a lot of other brands fall over, that if you were just a flashy sticker on the side of a water bottle with some yummy taste and magnesium, you wouldn't last. You wouldn't hold up because you'd have all these old salty dogs in triathlon world that'll taste it, get nothing out of it, and just throw you to the cleaners. Like, they wouldn't try you again. So as you're going through these pharmaceutical loopholes too, like you guys are learning the inside and out on your product and what it is. And then, like I said, Damien, sometimes when you talk about what the ingredients are and what they do, mate, like it's a foreign language. It's like, you know, but it's cool because you do know it. You've had to say it so many times because people aren't putting anything in their body, either at high level or even as an age group, without knowing that there's some meat on the bone.
Oh, Bo, and I'll tell you, we've had some salty conversations, Charlie. I can't even recall. Like, think about 12 months ago, Charlie. We were some of the conversations we had to have with some old timers in triathlon that, like, Bo must have just been born skeptics. As you said, there is snake oil. There's everything, and literally, like, they've given us the time. Like, the couple. Actually, there was one particular story. We won't mention names, but probably the rudest response to emails you possibly could imagine, to the point where, like, Charlie, you can hear how nice a bloke he is and passionate, where he's just gone, Damo, I'm not sure if I can pursue this. I said, Charlie, we're going to make it our mission to turn this ship around on this
Yeah.
bloke. It's going to work. And just
Karen.
slowly chipped away.
I've narrowed one down.
It was a bloke. Yeah, it was a bloke. Let's call him Carl. And as you said, an old rusted on in a sport that has been traditionally supplement free. Give me a pair of runners and a water bottle and I'm sweet. But we worked and chipped away at it to the point where now. No, we convinced him to just take a phone call. We played the Aussie card. Said, mate, we're just a bunch of Aussie blokes. We think we deserve at least a phone call, and chipped away at it. But we've had that's just one example. But and we did turn him. Now he's got all of his athletes on it, which is hilarious. But we've had a number of. You just summed it up really well. There's been a lot of miseducation in this space. A lot of really unefficacious products on the market, and I don't blame people for being skeptical. It's us as Aussies. We are the most skeptical country. We are the most non-saleable, skeptical consumer on earth. And then you put a little bit of rust on that and a few years of triathlon under your belt, and we've had some good combos. I'll tell you that.
Oh mate, you're seeing it now with good old Christian and the Norwegians training in a different style than everyone else. The amount of people that are in shock at the moment, going, "Hang on, that stuff we've been doing for 30 years might be wrong." There's some nervous people that might have to change their approach to a few things.
Yeah, well, that's
you sticking to it.
Of course, is that there's still so much innovation ahead of us. Every time you think like it's done, this must be the final frontier. There's something around the corner. It keeps us hungry. It keeps us working hard every day as well. We go, look, we've got something special here. We can change the game again. We can be one of those. We can be that brand that pioneers the space globally in triathlon and endurance sports. We're very lucky and thankful for the opportunity to sit here and have these conversations and be part of a brand that gets us excited to wake up every day and go and help people. But the next innovation's around the corner. But you've hit the nail on the head. Those guys are really exciting. The future of the sport is really exciting. I don't think it's the first time in history where we've got guys crossing distances from long course to short course to mid course and doing it, backing it up 2 weeks later and a week later, and things are happening that haven't ever happened before. A lot of people are talking about this changing of the guard in triathlon as well. The old faces and the old dogs and this young crop of new athletes. But there's still a lot of fight in those old dogs, I think, as well, still to come. So the next 12 months, 24 months is still going to be a lot of really fun, exciting racing to be had. And yeah, we're excited to be a part of it.
Well, you guys haven't even, if you guys are still in your honeymoon period of your hero product, the Triple Magnesium, you guys would still be getting some amazing data from, like, as you said, you've got athletes racing. Anna just picked up first at the UTA under your banner. Like, she races for you guys, or she uses Bottle.It. Like, you've got all of this feedback yet to come. Jan hasn't had one of his proper races under your product. So you guys have got so much to look forward to in just that regards. Is that what the future holds? Is that what's exciting? Global? You've kind of got your Australian market, just speaking of the Ironman point of view, the world that I'm kind of looking at. You've got that kind of tied down now with some good sponsorships, some good athletes running around. Is it worldwide for you guys now? Is that the next frontier?
I'll let you take that, Daniel.
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna, I suppose our growth path will be a little bit won't be that traditional in a sense, but as you've said, Australia, we're an Australian company, proud of it. The team and majority of the team is based here, so we very much will have an opportunity here in Australia to, I suppose, present the product and make it available to potentially a wider group of athletes. While I feel it's still really important to make sure the education is very much centered at the core demographic, and that being our insurance consumer. As I said, we still have a huge core of professional athletes across so many sports. Like, we've got Tennis Australia, like we've got all of these governing bodies that products are using it, which is exciting for us. Like, we absolutely love dealing with athletes. But we know that the brand is too new, and to be able to go after every sport globally is near impossible for a brand our size. So as we launch overseas, as you said, we're going to be going into Europe. We're imminently turning on our European website within the next 7 days, which is just super exciting. It's been a lot of work for the team, and the team's done a fantastic job. But Probably too many hurdles to go in on, but launching pharmaceutical products across Europe, where every single country has a different regulatory level on ingredients, has been very, very difficult. But we knew that one of the core, Germany particularly is a very core market for triathlon, second biggest after America, and we obviously know with Jan as part of the team now, that was going to be a market we really wanted to target. So Jan was an interesting one, mate. We had to actually ask him to dial himself down a little bit, because before we had that distribution set up, it was just going to cause too many headaches to be shipping product across the world, particularly in the middle of a pandemic. So as you've said, Jan's got some amazing stories to tell in terms of what the product's been doing for him, both pre and very much during this injury phase. And we're hoping, over the next life of the brand, that you'll be really able to hear from someone as influential as him, as about how he's now looking at micronutrition as that next frontier for both his performance. But let's be realistic, someone like Jan hasn't got to where he's got by, being natural, like just being, I suppose, completely focused on what he does. He's a very well-rounded bloke, and he probably knows he's he's already announced that it'll be his last Kona next year. So he's thinking about micronutrition, not just for the here and now to win Kona, which we know someone like that wants to do, but someone like him also wants to continue to be able to run and cycle for another 20, 30 years of his life. Like these athletes, they don't just turn it off. It's not like rugby players. I couldn't wait to get off my boots and never put them back on again. But endurance is a lifestyle for so many people. So when you start thinking about, joints particularly, I think there is a certain level of athlete out there that maybe won't be doing Ironman all their lives, but definitely want to be able to continue to do their social riding. So for us, getting back on track, we're going to be focusing on Europe and particularly across Germany and the UK across the next 12 months. And we've had a couple of opportunities arise where we may fast track getting that core product into the United States and really staying quite niche in what we're going to do. So strategy is kind of inch wide, mile deep in terms of endurance. And, while people may disagree with we should be going after every athlete in the world, we just staying in our lane and doing what we know best and where we feel the consumer and our athlete really wants to hear from us.
Man, it's amazing. Like I said, I consider myself very fortunate that I've been able to try a product, chase the product down, and then get to learn more about the product, because especially it was one of those things that, there are a lot of stickers thrown on bikes and, like you said, just a drink bottle and a pair of shoes, and I'll do my 10 Instagram posts and a reel and tag you guys in. And then the first conversation we had was like, hey, can I get Pillar on board Bottle.It to tell people to take magnesium to help them sleep with anxiety? And you guys straight away were like, yeah, but let us educate you before you open your mouth. And it was such a refreshing thing to hear, that any other brand would have been like, yeah, mate, go nuts. You keep banging that drum on social media and we'll take your business. But you guys were the polar opposite. You're like, well, no, actually, let us teach you about the brand before you tell people. And that's one of the reasons why, like I said, I know it looks like an ad, smells like an ad. I can promise you it's not. This is something that I genuinely take. It's improved my life with my, I work in childcare. I'm 6'4". I've got busted knees from rugby. I'm up and down off the floor numerous times a day. And if it wasn't for products like magnesium and fish oil, I'd be in a filthy mood by the time I got home. So I think it is important for people that, not only endurance athletes, like there's a few listening that'll be onto the that they know already how important those things are. But for anyone listening, it's like, if you just move and you want to move better and you just want to, you want that, like you said, that happiness back. Charlie, you touched on it too, with how much of a release you get from just going from a run or being in that world or going for a swim. Like, you need to keep doing it. It makes you a better person. So from a Bottle.It point of view, thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for filling me in on what separates you guys from the other snake oil. And if you haven't tried it, get around UTA, get around an Ironman event and go and rock some samples. Do yourself a favor and see if you can't meet Damo's dad, one of the nicest blokes going. Is he going to every event now?
Mate, he's recently retired. He retired at the perfect time, and I think there's a combination of him wanting to be a part of the crew, and I think some of his favourite weekends are when he can work hard. Like, there's nothing my dad, and I definitely get my work ethic from my old man as well. The bloke, as you saw, mate, he doesn't stop.
He didn't sit down.
But once he does stop, mate, you wouldn't want to be a beer in 10 feet of him. Like, I think some of his proudest days, obviously to have, me launching the brand, but to be able to work with guys like Charlie, or Dad just loves to be a part of it. He does it off his own bat. He literally drives the van everywhere, and he just wants to. He loves the idea of just seeing people. He just gets a kick out of obviously what we've created. You can see the hype and the buzz around it. And as I said, he's recently retired, so I think we're doing Mum a favour as well as giving him something to do. But he's been a bloody big help. We call him.
Huge help.
He's Expo Nick, and so we just make sure he's well lubricated in the evenings. Us as a brand, we don't touch those kind of libations, but we need to make sure Nick has his couple of great Northerns and he's good to go the next day.
Yeah, just a quick 20 seconds story, but he is an absolute hoot. I love the man. In the early days, we were really proud to get our first pillar pillar van, which we got branded and pillarized, so we say. And anyway, the first trip, we did a trip down to South Australia, and we just basically had you can imagine, all of our activation equipment, marquees, flags, the works. And it was basically all just piled in the back of the van. I mean, to get anything, you basically had to take everything out before. Anyway,
it was a disaster.
Damien's dad sees this and just says, I will not have this. And he says, give me the van for a week. When we got it back, let me tell you, it was complete game changer. The man had cubbies, had false floors, he had tubing, he had a place for everything. And it's been amazing. And he's been adding value.
Yeah. We haven't got the van back yet, mate. It's his van. We have to ask for permission to use it now.
What a mad dog. Right, where do we see you next?
Thanks, both.
Where do we see you next?
Mate,
Melbourne.
I'm down Ironman Melbourne. You going?
Me, no, mate. My wife, I told her I'd do one Ironman and I was done. Like Port Macquarie's admit, I've been at everyone since. Owner included.
So for those in Melbourne, we got Ironman Melbourne next weekend. Following weekend, Charlie, where are we? You and I are in Sydney. What are we doing? We've got next following weekend.
Next
busy
weekend,
lead up to Christmas.
Perth.
There's a gap there, but then Ironman Taupo, we've got Ironman Busso. There's a few big ones to close out the year, and then we've got a couple smaller activations with community groups and retailers as well.
I think we're doing stuff with the Brats in Bondi next weekend, isn't that? That's next weekend, right?
Yep.
From my memory, club race day next weekend. Ironman Melbourne, Bustleton.
Got it going on.
Yeah, Ironman. Yeah, down in Maroubra. Then we got Ironman Melbourne, Bustleton. Yeah, you're in Taupo, Charlie. Yeah, we need, mate. If you want to throw a pillar shirt on, Bo, we could use a few extra hands, mate.
Mate, seeing how hard you work your dad, I'm not a chance. Yeah, go and try it. I enjoyed sending everyone to your tent at Noosa because it was one of those things like go get a sachet of magnesium, and then I got the little bit of the buzz, and I got nothing to do with pillar. I got the buzz the next morning on race day. They woke up and I was like, oh, had that magnesium go, and every one of them, I slept like a log. And I got that little bit of, I got an ego kick out of going, I recommended that. So I can only imagine how you guys are flying with the recommendations and the comments, and it's well deserved, guys. You've obviously done the work, you know it inside and out, and can't wait to see it go onwards and upwards.
Yeah, I'm glad it's treating you well too, Bo. I get that feedback, always fuels us, so it's great.
Like I said, mate, I'll get Ali to drop that Google review saying that I've stopped pestering her every night. So yeah, that'll do well for the female audience.
Love that,
mate. Always appreciated. Thanks for the chat, Bo.
No worries. Talk soon, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye.